Hello everyone, welcome back to TH Designs. Today we're going to be doing something that I mentioned actually a few weeks ago in my original Thunderhawk Recreation video where I recreated the oldest coaster in Cedar Fair. I mentioned that I wanted to RMC it, and that was kind of the goal of that video, was to actually tee up an RMC conversion video, and here it is. I'm finally doing it. First of all, I want to explain that I'm coming off a sore throat, so if I sound raspy or like I've been smoking cigarettes for 10 years, that's why. And yeah, my throat hurts a lot. But the show must go on. This will probably be a shorter video because most of the layout does exist, which, speaking of, let's hop over to that map. So here is the map of Thunderhawk. Like I said, I think this is going to be a shorter video because all of this already exists. All the theming, all the supports, all that fun stuff, the station. So really what we're doing here is, converting this, what is a 101-year-old coaster into an RMC beast. If you haven't seen the video where I recreate this, and I kind of go over the history of it because this is from Dorney Park, which is my local park, so I know a little bit about it, and I included some old footage from like the early 1900s when the coaster was first made, and throughout its years to now. It was a very interesting video to make, especially if you like a little bit of history. But regardless, I think what's most important is to remove some of this track, and let's just get started. So first of all, let's just run some numbers. Thunderhawk is, like I said, 101 years old. 1924 was when it first opened. The length is about 2,700 feet, as you can see there. That's not bad. Height 80 feet, that's a little small. Most of the RMC conversions that I can think of that are this size, like the Joker at Discovery Kingdom or Twisted Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia, those are kind of my precedent that I'm kind of looking for inspiration because they're about the size of Thunderhawk. Actually, here's Twisted Cyclone, which is actually less in length. Joker is about 500 feet more, but both are about 100 feet. So we're probably going to have to bump the height to 100 feet from 80, but that's not hard at all with the footprint that we have. Speed is actually not too far off from what we're seeing. 50 miles per hour for Twisted Cyclone and 53 miles per hour for the Joker. What is interesting, and maybe the most challenging part about this, that coasters like Joker at Discovery Kingdom, which transitioned from Roar, and Twisted Cyclone, which transitioned from Cyclone, shocker, they had layouts that were kind of like lapping on top of themselves. So their RMC translations are pretty intense and compact. This one is a pretty standard out and back, but it has this like curl where it twists back on itself, which is cool because it offers a lot of really cool opportunities to do something really fun, especially here where the track is right next to each other. Immediately I think of like a high five almost type of element. But yeah, so we're going to be using those two coasters for the most part as inspiration for this guy. So yeah, let's just get building. First, I'm going to remove the station, and we're just going to kind of slowly delete, and add the RMC ride. There is a question of, do I do the completely steel track or do I do the topper track? But I think I'm going to do the completely steel track. It's just, I think it's a little more realistic. So there is our train placed into the station. Fits pretty much perfectly. We're going to do some nice theming on the train and everything, but for now we'll leave it as the basic one. I think my immediate thought is to do the transfer track immediately after the station, just like Thunderhawk does. I think of Steel Vengeance, which also has a transfer track immediately coming out of the station, so I'll probably do something like that, but that's not really worth a little time lapse, so I'll just skip over to that. Alright, I added a pretty basic transfer track that takes this segment of track and would, in theory, store the second train. I'm only having 2 stored trains because this is such a short coaster that it just wouldn't make that much sense to have 3, being at what, 2,700 feet or whatever it was. This felt realistic. Of course, the color of the track is going to change, but the maintenance bay and everything is fairly good. So, the fun part. Let's remove this pre-lift area, which, if you haven't seen the original video, this is actually partially underground because the old park entrance used to be over here, and the building for, I think it was Journey to the Center of the Earth and some other attractions were on top of this. So I actually think I kind of want to honor it and keep it. I don't want to remove it because it kind of has some neat history to it. I do want to clean it up a bit though. I may have to widen it, if anything. I expanded this right side just a bit more, as you can actually see there, which I have to now fix that. So here's Twisted Cyclone's POV. This has a little pre-lift thing going on, kind of inspired by the original Cyclone. So something like that with these kind of weird bank turns. Here's the Joker at Discovery Kingdom, which you can see kind of has a similar type of thing with these ups and downs, these very small airtime hills, and like outer banked turns and things like that. So I think we're going to play off of that. Alright, I think there's our little pre-lift done. It's a little awkward being with the constraints of this thing. I did like this little outer bank airtime hill, very tiny with very little speed. A little bit of an overbank turn, classic, a little bunny hop, and then another, as it just crashes there, and then another little outer banked airtime hill. I think that's fairly appropriate considering the little space that we have. Now, of course, the chain lift, which we are going to do, I'm probably going to do 100 feet. I think that's fair. Alright, so there's the lift hill removed. Let's replace it with the RMC lift hill. I read online that typically lift hills are like between 40 and 45 degrees, especially for very tall coasters. 40 degrees is a little maybe too steep for us, because by the time we get to the area where there is the drop, we'll be at probably 150 feet, which is just a little too gnarly for me. I'm thinking maybe 35. That gets us to more or less like 120 feet, so I'm gonna go a little bit more shallow, and that will get us to 100, more or less 115, maybe 120 feet after some editing. We also have to consider that this drop is going to be probably much steeper, not probably, definitely much steeper. Alright, so there's our 115 foot lift. We are, what is that, like almost 40 feet higher than Thunderhawk. Let's remove this drop, and let's do a drop that gets us to more or less about this point. I guess I want to note that I don't want to make it exactly 1-to-1 for the footprint. I don't know, maybe because I think of like Twisted Cyclone. Let's go back to before the creation of Wicked, or Twisted Cyclone, excuse me. Too many cyclones out there. So this is the original right here. This is the original layout for Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia before it was RMC'd. And this is after, and you can see there's like there's a very strong resemblance between the two, but it's not exactly 1-to-1, it looks like. Yeah, because you see like moments like this turnaround here are not there in the conversion. More or less, I think the point I'm trying to get at is I think I'm going to stick relatively similar to the layout, the existing layout, and then just make the elements RMCE. Alright, so there's our drop done. 110 feet or something like that. We are now entering this straight here where there's originally an airtime hill. What I'm thinking is a small airtime hill, maybe similar to what you see on Steel Vengeance right after the drop. A very small airtime hill just to get you out of your seat. And then I really, if you remember at the beginning of the video, I mentioned a high five element. I think that could be really neat. Of course, there wouldn't be another train doing the high five, so I guess it's like one of those high fives where like nobody sees you and you just have to high five yourself. Regardless, I think it'll look neat. So I'm going to delete this strip of track, and then I think when I check back, we'll be ready to do this, which I have some ideas for. This is a very interesting piece of track here. Okay, so there's our airtime hill here done, something pretty small, and then into like a 35-foot high five element, which I'm sure I might have to change the profiling a little bit, but I've ridden it a few times. This is with a 3-foot offset, and it's pretty smooth. It comes in actually pretty hot. My thought is to either mirror this whenever on the return, because this train will be going that way, so that it is a true high five element. Or actually I had a thought of maybe doing it down here, and that way when you're on the path here, if I were to remove some trees here, actually you're about to see the train go through right now. Yeah, so that's a pretty aggressive element. So I may lower the lift actually, because I don't know if we have the real estate to be working with speeds that big, but we'll see, we'll figure it out as we go. What I was saying was if I do an alternating like high five element, then you get, if you're on the path here, you get a perfect view of this element, which is very neat. And then actually maybe I make this into an outer bank kind of airtime hill, and that way like the guests can see the riders. These are just ideas. I'm just spewing ideas out loud. So we'll see where the momentum of the train is after all this, and that'll decide if I lower that lift hill. But for now, what's important, yeah, that thing flies through that. That's pretty crazy, actually. Anyway, what really matters now is we have this really fascinating piece of track work from the original layout that I think opens up some really interesting opportunities for us. One of which is very reminiscent of Twisted Cyclone, and that is a reverse Cobra roll, which is one of my personal favorite elements out there. It just looks so smooth. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's that element right there, which this is Twisted Cyclone, and it's right after the drop, and it's essentially what it sounds like. It's basically a 0G roll. I don't know why it's so laggy. Into another 0G roll. Maybe it's because the coaster was exploding in the background. I think this offers a really neat opportunity to do something fun here. Okay, so there's our reverse cobra roll done. It's obviously a bit of a modified one. Typically, as you see in this POV of Wicked Twister, that turn there is just that. It's just a turn. For my interpretation, I don't know. I thought we had enough room to do something really interesting with an outer banked airtime hill. And the speed in which it's coming at, I think, is gentle enough where this isn't unrealistic. I did lower the lift hill. It's now 101 feet instead of 113 feet, so I lowered it about 12 feet or so. It just makes all these elements just so much easier to work with. The speed in which it's coming into this little high five element, and then into obviously this reverse cobra roll is very nice, very manageable. I imagine we'll have to redo some of this pathing when we do some of the scenery work. We are now here. We're gonna do some cool overbank turns, I'm sure, and outer bank turns. Maybe do like a little 0G roll flip here into some really cool bank element, like a step up under flip type of thing. And then yeah, and then we're gonna have a neat moment for interaction here. Alright, so I know I said I was thinking about doing a step up underflip, but I actually changed it into kind of like this almost like lightning rod kind of double up. And it does this kind of overbank action, which dives, which is a little bit step up underflip-esque, and then it sweeps into this overbank turn. I'm thinking this is less about inversions and a lot more about airtime, which every RMC kind of has their specialty that they focus on. Like I think of like Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion, that is all about airtime. I think this guy, I think the only inversions we're really gonna have are probably is this reverse cobra, which is absolutely fine with me. So now we have our interaction moment with this reverse cobra roll. I'm thinking maybe doing like a triple up or maybe a double up, and then maybe another overbank turn that sweeps this way, maybe an outer bank turn. I don't know, I just kind of have to feel it, and we'll see where it takes us. Alright, I added this kind of overbank turn. Originally it was a lot higher. We are running out of a little bit of speed. I actually raised the lift to once again like 5 feet, so I think our final is like 106 or something like that. Of course, we're setting ourselves up for either the high five element, which I actually don't think I'm going to do. I like my other idea that I brought up earlier, where just do some nice airtime hills, and then this last one will be like an outer bank airtime hill where it faces the path, and then of course the brake run. So alright, so there's our final run done, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so I added an airtime hill that was pretty inspired by something you might see on like Twisted Timber, with the airtime hills that are at the end that are less like these smaller ones and much more like the bunny hop hills, actually like the ones you see over here on Steel Force. Then we go into this very small airtime hill, very similar to the one that comes right after the drop, and it almost doubles up into that outer bank turn, which is perfect if you're a guest on the path and want a very interactive moment. That's a very neat moment. And then just a very small little double up into the brake run, completing this very interesting kind of airtime machine I'll save the POV for once all the scenery's done, which is probably what I'm about to do now, but I wanted the majority of this video to just be a little bit of a story about how you can turn an old Woody into an RMC and what that actually might look like in Planet Coaster. And I feel I did a fairly good job. I had a mission statement going into it of kind of honoring the original layout, which was mostly about speed and airtime. And I tried to make that the forefront of this coaster as well. And I feel like it does a fairly good job. I love the pacing on this. Love that. That's like perfect. Nice little bunny hop there into that outer bank turn, which is like perfect. And then into the brake run at a very nice speed. But yeah, overall, nice stuff, I'd say. And yeah, so I'm going to get into doing all the support work, editing the signs, because of course this isn't going to be called Thunderhawk. I'm probably going to call it like Steel Thunderhawk, Steel Thunder, something along the lines of the typical steel theme that you see with RMC. Not only because it's an RMC conversion, but also this park is in the Lehigh Valley, which is known for its steel industry, which is actually why the new coaster that would otherwise be over there is called Iron Menace and has old steel warehouse type of themings, because the old steel stacks in Bethlehem, which are fairly famous. So with all that said, I'm just gonna cut to after all the scenery's done. I may actually get rid of this airtime hill. I think it's getting a little too fast since I've raised that hill, but I'll make that call. So I'm gonna cut to afterwards, and we could do the review really quick, and of course the POV, and I'll probably do a little cinematic or something fun. So otherwise, shorter video, something very fun though. So see you in a bit. All right. Well, all the scenery and all the supports and all the customization are complete. Didn't have to do that much custom supports, but welcome to Steel Thunder. I know I had to go the pretty standard RMC conversion name, but it does kind of play in hand the location of the coaster geographically. Didn't have to do that much custom support. A little bit here to kind of keep that tunnel that does exist on the real coaster. Besides that, not much else. I did have to do some here near the reverse Cobra roll, which you can see I got rid of that outer bank turn. It just was too aggressive. It just felt unrealistic. Everything looks really solid. I planted some new trees to kind of create these windows where the track is near the path for these little vista points. I love how you can see these airtime hills, see these turns and banks. This outer bank here is fantastic. Reworked a little bit of the pathway here, nothing crazy, more just trimmed it there so I could add the custom supports and then some little planters. In real life, Steel Force would be over here, but I just haven't added that. The logo itself, I kind of had a little bit of fun with like this steel font, and of course Thunder has to be italicized because it's Thunder. I don't know, it just is. Logo here, and the station is all relatively the same. The trains themselves, let me pull it out of the station real quick. Trains themselves are pretty standard, pretty basic. Didn't go that much into it. Just put the name of the coaster with some kind of nuts and bolts that are kind of hanging on the side and front of the train. Behind every car is a lightning bolt. You can kind of see right there. Thought that was kind of cute. But otherwise, nothing crazy. Not much else to talk about besides, I think let's just jump over to the cinematic. This cinematic might be a little different than usual. Instead of kind of like music and some kind of beats that follow the coaster, I'm probably going to do a little bit more of a before and after mix. I think that could be interesting. So, and then of course the POV. Other than that, I think it's time to start wrapping it up. So thank you all for the love and support. We are coming off of that RCT recreation video. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. And if you like it, do let me know, because I want to know if you want to see more. And that extends to this as well. Of course, there's a million old wooden coasters out there that could be RMC'd, quote unquote. It's kind of a double whammy because we can do a little fun video recreating the actual old coaster and going through the history of it, just like we did with Thunderhawk. And then of course RMCing it, which in itself is a totally different creative process. So with all that said, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Do make sure to comment your thoughts as always, and take care everybody. Hope you enjoyed the cinematic and the POV.